Hey guys, this is Steve Chassman from the Long Island Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependence, coming to you from LICADD's offices, which are empty. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today and congratulate all of you for, I'm sure, working a great school program from home, and together as a community, we will get through this crisis. But I've been asked to speak to you for just a few minutes today around anxiety. And listen, if we had made this video maybe a month ago or 2 months ago, maybe some of the dialogue would have been a little different. But quite frankly, we're all dealing with some level of fear and anxiety today, and it is justified. Sometimes we have these fears. Let's back up. We can agree that the emotion behind anxiety is usually fear. There's an acronym for fear that stands for forget everything and run, meaning like we'd rather run than deal with our fears. But just know that we build character, we build self-esteem, we build self-worth, oftentimes by dealing with our fears or confronting them. Sometimes all we could do with fear, particularly these days, is arrive at a point of acceptance. Now, when we accept our fears, it doesn't mean approval. It doesn't mean I approve that I'm frightened right now or anxious. It just means that I'm relinquishing or letting go some of my expectations. And God knows, I think we all had some expectations that things should be different right now. You all should be in school. I'm sure there's graduations and proms and so many questions about the future that we have unknown answers to right now. I'm sitting to you in an empty office at LICADD. It's one of three, but LICADD, even though the clinicians are still on call 24 hours a day and fielding a host of calls, not just around substance use and mental health and anxiety, we are practicing social distancing. So, as you all are. By learning remotely from home. So the emotion behind anxiety or stress is usually fear. Fear sometimes are projections to the future or having to deal with uncertainty and unknowns. You should know that there's an acronym that we use in addressing and even treating fear and anxiety. It came based out of a psychologist who works out of Washington, D.C. She wrote a book. Her name is Tara Brach. And she wrote a book called Radical Acceptance and Radical Compassion, but she came up with an acronym for dealing with anxiety. And the acronym is RAIN. So the R is being able to recognize that we are, in fact, in a heightened state of stress, anxiety, or fear. Let's just recognize it. There's no sense denying it or repressing it, right? Or looking the other way. Right now could be a scary time. I'm sure we're all dealing with some level. So let's recognize that right now is a really challenging time. The A in RAIN is acceptance or acknowledge. Let's acknowledge that this is where we're at right now. And I know you have questions about when going back to school and all this, and we have questions too about where's this going to go, how long are people going to be out of work? And I'm sure that's translating not just to you, but to all the families across Long Island, across New York, and across the country. So collectively as a community, we are here, and this is where we're at. So let's acknowledge and accept that. The I in RAIN is investigate. What are my fears? Are they rational? Meaning like, are they founded in reality or are they irrational? And I think most times we would say today, particularly this day at the height of a national pandemic, viral pandemic, that some of these fears are in fact rational. As I speak to you on video, the office is here, social distancing, you're all learning from home. But sometimes we always have to check our own minds and say, hey, are these projections to the future, are they founded in reality? Now, I know lots of intelligent men and women, as you know too. I don't know anyone that can really tell the future. So when we look to the future, off in the distance, and human beings always do this, sometimes the uncertainty of the future can cause fear or stress or anxiety. So the opposite of that is we investigate our fears. Let's try to keep what's in front of us today. Let's be right here in the moment. Another word for that is being in the moment and acknowledging our internal and external perceptions is mindfulness. Just to be able to sit as we investigate our own thoughts and just be in the moment. Now, some of us don't want to be in the moment because we're home and there's a lot of downtime right now. And sometimes we're left alone with our thoughts. That shouldn't be a frightening thing. And if it is, we can make friends with fear. This is part of the I in investigate. Let's make friends with the fear. So believe me, acceptance doesn't mean approval. I wish things weren't the way they are, but we have to arrive, recognize, accept, and investigate that this is where we are. And that leads to the N in RAIN, which is nurture. Let's nurture our fears. Let's nurture our stress. Let's nurture our social isolation, the fact that we're not with our friends, we're not at school, we're not at work, And many of us really have to remove ourselves in keeping with the practices of social distancing, which ultimately will make this pandemic better. So really challenging times. If you have brothers and sisters and guardians, mothers, fathers, we're all cooped up in the house together, and that alone could be challenging, just being with loved ones. But hopefully everyone's getting along, and it's really important that you do the RAIN for your own wellness and check your own anxiety. Now, just know when we talk about the emotion behind anxiety, we establish that it's fear. Fear is part of a spectrum of emotions. It's a little nursery rhyme that goes with it. Mad, glad, scared, and sad. Of those 4 primary emotions, there are thousands of emotional states, and emotions oftentimes are very much like the weather. They change. We wake up fearful, then we're happy, then maybe we're angry, and then we get a little bored, and then we're happy again, and maybe we're sad about something. And, you know, our emotional lives are forever in transition. So that's really, really important. One of the things you could do to promote emotional stability, even amid a national pandemic, even amid your school closing, is to practice wellness self-management plans, being able to self-soothe or calm yourself. And that's pretty much a 4-pronged approach. It's bio, psycho, social, spiritual. So, not to get all clinical, but what is biological wellness? Biological wellness means physically, what are we doing for ourselves? Now, many of us are in the house. The internet is real, and it's here for us. We can download or go on YouTube, and we could look at yoga videos. We could look at dance videos. We could get out and enjoy social distancing. Listen, LICADD has offices across Long Island, but I happen to be, like you, a Northport resident. So the fact that there's lots of parks, and we have Town, and we have Sunken Meadow, and we have Comsot and Huntington, really, really important to take advantage of the great outdoors or the good orderly direction out there. If you haven't noticed, I've seen Forsythia and Magnolia getting ready to pop. So physically, greatest reducer of stress out there for us is physical exercise. You can do it in your home. You can do it out of your home while practicing social distancing. When we talk about psychological wellness, we talked about RAIN, recognize, acknowledge, investigate, and nurture some of our thoughts, some of our fears, some of our anxieties, and some of our joys, pleasant thoughts. Perspective is good too. You know, there may be something good out of this. I don't know. But, you know, we have to find the good. We've been experiencing a lot of good here at LICADD because even though we're not physically all working together, we're actually getting a lot of calls and being able to help a lot of people as social workers and mental health counselors. And that makes us feel good, being able to be of use to others. So when we talk about psychological wellness, share a problem, cut it in half. I know you feel somewhat connected from some of your professional supports, whether it's teachers or coaches or any of that, but you can reach out to them online. I know you're doing distance learning. You can get together with your peers, either through Zoom or through Skype or FaceTime. It's really, really important that we be able to air out some of our fears and acknowledge them with our peers or our professional supports or our parents. Really, really important. So the bio, psycho, and then social. To stay socially connected, I'm sitting here in an empty room talking to you. I may not physically be connected to anyone else as I'm in this empty office by myself talking to a phone. But you know what? I feel a connection to all of you that maybe, just maybe, someone's going to see this and maybe benefit from something. I wish I can hear back from you all, but it's just great that you're doing an online webinar for wellness at all, which is fantastic. So hats off to Northport High School and Middle School. You guys are the best. So, and then, of course, the last is the spiritual. So biopsychosocial, spiritual. What can we do for spiritual wellness? Well, there's an old proverb that goes like this. You want to be miserable? Think of yourself. Want to be happy? Think of others. And we have lots of opportunity, and Northport High School has a great history of looking out for not only the community, but looking out for people in need. Now, that just doesn't have to be the elderly. That doesn't have to be the underserved or the poor. That can also be one of your peers or one of your siblings or one of your neighbors may need some help right now. Now, it doesn't mean we go knock on the door and break the rules of social distancing, but who can we reach out to make ourselves of use? You know, sometimes anxiety is very all-consuming because we think of I, me, and my fears, my anxiety. If we could think of others sometimes, we can reroute some of our thoughts away from our fears, away from our concerns or around the future and uncertainty, and we can go out and see what others need. So anyway, speaking of LICADD, though, you should know we have a long relationship working with your school. All of us are licensed mental health professionals. If you do need to talk to a mental health professional, just know LICADD, you can reach us 24 hours a day, 631-979-1700. I'll say that one more time, 631-979-1700, or you can go to LICADD, LICADD.org. But we know you guys are doing great. This pandemic will get better. As a community, we will get better together. And most importantly, stay safe and stay well. It's great being able to talk to you today. Have a great one.